We're going to look at converting units in this next video, and we're going to talk about the metric system and how you convert between metric units, so from kilometers to meters or meters to millimeters. And when you start to get frustrated and having to remember and how to do all this, it is a good idea to kind of step back and look at actually why this system is a little bit better than our feet and inches system. So we're going to take a little look at this American chopper clip.
All right, you ready?
And they still lean.
Yeah.
6 7/8, right? 7 1/4.
Yeah, but see, you can hop curbs with this thing.
What's the difference between 6 7/8 and 7 1/4?
3/8.
Inch and 3/8.
3/8.
3/8.
Inch and 3/8.
3/8. 6 7/8 to 7 1/4.
6 1/4.
Oh, 6 1/4.
And 6 7/8.
That's totally different than what he said.
Yeah, what did you
7 1/8, right?
7 1/8 and 6 1/4?
6
1/4 is 7/8.
6 1/8 and 7 1/4.
6 7/8.
That's inch and an eighth.
An inch and what?
An inch and 1/8.
Did you say 7 1/8
No, it's
and 6 1/4?
6 1/8 to 7 1/4.
No, no.
Right, so you're right. It's
Oh, he said 6 1/8? I thought he said
6 1/8.
It's changed.
Yeah, it changed 4 times. What's the numbers?
But the
6 and what?
6 1/8.
Check it.
the last thing he's
7 1/4.
I'm sorry. It's actually 5 5/8.
Wow. And what?
5 5/8.
I'm gonna write this down.
5 5/8 and 7 1/4.
Well, 5 5/8. There's another 3/8 there. 6 1/4.
2 inches minus 3/8.
Inch and 7/8.
2
Should be.
inches.
5/8.
Inch and 5/8?
Inch and 5/8.
Okay, inch and 5/8.
What is it? I'll write it down and I'll figure it out.
Right here. Well, if it was 5 1/4 to 7
5
1/4 would be
1/4,
2.
and what was the other one?
It's 5 5/8 to 7 1/4. That would be
5
2
5/8.
inches.
Say 5 1/4, right?
2
And
inches
what was
minus
the top
3/8.
number?
Be inch and 5/8.
7 1/4.
Yeah.
It's 5
So it's
1/4.
2 inches. It's just a hair under 2 inches.
For what? What are you figuring it out for?
7/8. There's an inch and 7/8 difference between the front and the back.
Okay.
So that should give you a little bit of an insight into why most other countries use the metric system. So we're going to talk a little more about these prefixes for our metric system and how to convert between all of the different prefixes. You often have to convert between the units and not to be able to tell me that kilometers is larger than millimeters. And there are different ways that people use to convert between units. You can use a mnemonic, you can use a ratio, or you can just kind of know that there are 1,000 meters in a kilometer and then multiply or divide correctly. Okay, let's start out with a mnemonic that I'm sure you all learned a long time ago. It's this KHDDCM, or you often learn it as King Henry died while drinking chocolate milk. You usually learn that a long time ago. And what does it stand for? Your K should stand for kilo, and then you have hecto, and there you have deca, and then your base unit, whatever it is, and then you have deci, centi, and milli. This might be useful when trying to go from one unit to the next and just easily moving the decimal place a certain number of places based on this mnemonic. It's also very helpful because it does help you remember that kilo is bigger than milli, hecto is bigger than centi, and they are the basic units that are used a lot. So it's easy to convert between. You're just going to move the decimal. It also helps remember prefixes. One of the big downfalls is if you're trying to convert between units and you know, okay, I'm going from kilo to centi, I'm going to move my decimal 4 places. But it doesn't really tell you how many kilometers are in a meter or how many centimeters are in a meter, just that I'm moving my decimal 4 places. It also might be a problem if you don't quite remember this mnemonic right. So maybe I can't remember which one's deci, which one's deca, I can't remember whether it was chocolate milk or whatever the end of it was. So sometimes it's not very good if you can't remember it. So you don't actually know. And you might forget the mnemonic. I can't spell mnemonic. Another way that you can convert units is using a ratio. So we're going to look at the steps for doing this. Take, for example, that I'm trying to convert 500 kilometers into some number of meters. Well, what I know is that there are 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. So that can get written as a fraction. So there are 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. And it wouldn't matter whether I put the kilometer on top or the meter on top, doesn't make a difference. Anytime you say one or per something, that indicates a fraction. So I said 1,000 meters per kilometer or 1,000 meters in a kilometer. Since we know this, we can set that equal to some number of meters in my 500 kilometers. This is just the way that I do ratios. You could also put both the kilometers on the same side and meters on the same side. Ratios are just always going to have that equal sign in between. Since I have that equal sign in between, that means I am going to cross multiply and divide. So 1,000 times 500 which is 5. Got my zeros right here. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's going to be equal to 1 times x. So x. And what is x? X is my meters. So I know that there are 500,000 meters. It's the same thing as 500 kilometers. So in essence, all you're really doing there is multiplying by 1,000. But that is using a ratio. You don't have to use a mnemonic or a ratio as long as you remember which unit is larger or smaller and by how much. Take, for example, again, if we're going to convert our 500 kilometers into some number of meters. Instead of setting up a ratio, you may just say, well, there are 1,000 meters in a kilometer, so my number has to get bigger because there are 1,000 in every one, and I have 500 of them. So what I need to do, I need to multiply. So I need to take my 500 times 1,000, and then I'll get the same number, that 500,000. So a lot of times people forget that you can think about it like that. Well, I have 500 of them. I know that there are 1,000 in one. So you multiply and get that big number. Whichever method you use, it doesn't really matter, but I'm not going to accept if you just move the decimal. I need to see some kind of work. I really need to see a ratio, or I need to see multiply or divide based on the unit size. If we're going to use that mnemonic to help you, that's great. But I really need to see the math here, that you know that it's 1,000 or you know that it's 100. Finally, let's convert some derived units. These are sometimes the hardest units to convert because they contain multiple units that need to be converted. So remember, a derived unit is a combination of units. So it's easier to convert them one at a time. So let's take a look at converting kilometers per hour into meters per second. So 50 kilometers per hour. So 50 kilometers per 1 hour. And we're going to convert that into some number of meters per second. You can start out by converting either the top or the bottom unit. It doesn't matter, just pick one. I'm going to start with the top unit of kilometers, since there are 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer, and I have 50. I'm going to multiply by 1,000. So I'm going to start off by converting this one. Take 50 times 1,000. Because I have 50 of them, and there are 1,000 meters in one. So that's going to give me my answer of 50,000 but that'll be 50,000 meters per 1 hour. So I'm going to have to convert to hour now. Those are a little bit tougher since they're on the bottom. What we do know between hours and seconds is that there are 3,600 seconds in 1 hour. Now if you didn't know that, that's alright. Just multiply 60 times 60 because there are 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour. Normally, if you're going to go from hours to seconds, so if I had 3 hours, you would multiply by this 3,600. But since it's on the bottom, it's kind of like you're doing the opposite, and you have to actually divide by 3,600 because this unit's on the bottom, it's not on the top. Kind of do the opposite. So you take this number and you divide by 3,600, and that'll give us our answer of about 13.9 meters per second. What I want you to do now is flip over your worksheet, look at the back side here, and have some practice converting units. You are going to have to show your math. Pause it after you try a couple and check your answer. If you get those right, then keep going. If not, check your work, see what you did wrong, okay, try and fix it, and try another one.